community casting and esports 2.0.
Hello, everyone. I know it took some guts to come here on the morning of the third day of the conference, so I guess it's only the strongest or the widest or maybe the oldest who had the strength to come here. I hope you won't be disappointed because we have a very interesting and diverse setup on this panel now. Let me introduce myself shortly. My name is Eugene Ravdin. I work for a betting affiliate company, MightyTips, and I have a pretty long background in sports media, in sports journalism. And our distinguished panelists today here for the community casting and esports 2.0, we'll get back to it, are Kersten James Chircop, the business development director for GMR, Daniel Finkler, co-founder and CEO for the Berlin International Gaming, and Chris Cachia, co-founder of Bloxx Bureau. Guys, would you please do a short intro of yourselves for the audience to understand why are you sitting on this panel?
Thank you, Eugene. My name is Kersten. I'm one of the co-founders and nowadays business development director of GMR. Basically, GMR is mostly an event organizer focusing on esports and video games. We've been around for the last 12 years. The company started as an academic and passion project. Fast forward to today, we are a company of 10 employees, and obviously when it comes to events, the team grows accordingly depending on the type of roles that we need. We organize a variety of competitions. We organize video game conferences, primarily being PlayCon, which is nowadays Malta's biggest conference combining video game development and esports. And yes, basically we're here to talk about, from an event organizer point of view, the industry going forward.
Thank you. Daniel.
Yeah. Hello, my name is Daniel. I'm now the CEO of BIG since 8 years. So I went through different stages of esports, the good ones and the bad ones. And today I'm basically responsible for our strategy within BIG, decide which games and teams we employ, but also, of course, thinking about the long-term future. And I think we want to establish our club as a platform to provide access to Gen Z and Alpha. Yeah. And I'm 36 years old. I'm coming from Germany.
Thank you. Chris.
Hi, my name is Chris. I run a service provider for the esports and video game industry. My main target would be non-EU companies, and we try to help them relocate to Europe or set up in Europe. We are also seeing most of the issues they have, like funding and financing, so we also get an insight into those things and try to support them. So I'm basically in support of people like Daniel and people like Kersten.
Thank you. So I have to tell you that when we first convened for preparation for this panel, we found common ground very quickly because all of us understood that we actually had no idea what esports 2.0 mean. So let me do two things. Try to define it for you and then redefine what we will be talking about today. So I went to AI, I went to ChatGPT and asked him what esports 2.0 is. So let me quote. Esports 2.0 refers to the next evolution of the esports industry, characterized by advancements in technology, VR, AR, AI, innovative tournament structures that prioritize player and community involvement, new monetization strategies, player engagement, and fan interaction. So that said, we agreed on a new title. We took the liberty to change the title of the panel to make it something simpler and more straightforward. So let's put it like this: the present and the future of esports, right? Daniel, the first question is for you as a representative of a big esports organization and professional gamer in the past on your own. How do you define esports today? What is esports?
Yes, thank you. So, in general, I would say it's all about the competition. Esports is like sports, of course on top, but there are many categories underneath. Same with esports. But the real esports for me is, first of all, it has to be a title which attracts many people as players, but at the same time also attracts a large viewership, people actually watching the games and competitions, and create the same kind of passion and enthusiasm like in sports, like in soccer, like in football, like in basketball, etc. And for us as a club, what I do is basically try to understand what are the biggest titles today, which are Dota, which are League of Legends, which are Counter-Strike, which are Valorant, and Fortnite, of course. Actually, Counter-Strike is there for 25 years, and the trend is very positive. And when we started, we had only one team. Now we have 6 titles in our portfolio. But this could totally change within the next 5 to 10 years. But I hope my passion is Counter-Strike, that this game is still around. I think another major growth driver, just to bring this topic up, would be mobile esports. I think with many people having their mobile devices, mobile esports is getting very big. It's already big, but it will be much bigger in the future. And that's also, of course, something we look at. We were already in, we left out, but we consider going into the space again in the future.
James, turning to you. The same question, but from a different viewpoint, from a point of a person who was involved in esports event organization. What's esports for you? Is it the same? Maybe something else?
So yes, in principle, it's mostly what Daniel said. I mean, esports nowadays it's more like a structured industry. So you have different organizers, you have the publishers themselves using esports as a marketing tool. Riot does this perfectly, so they use the competitive elements to promote their game, League of Legends. Obviously, nowadays there are certain standards within the industry that are pushing the industry going forward. So even the stereotype of what an esports player is, nowadays the professional teams have nutritionists with them, they have mental guides and stuff like that. So it's not just about people playing video games and that's it, because that's the bigger sphere of video games. So yes, I would say in a one short sentence, it's more like a structured competitive element to the video games industry.
Chris, anything to add from your side?
Not really. I think both Daniel gave it from the aspect of a team, and you have Kersten gave it from the aspect of an event organizer. There is also the aspect of who watches esports, and many times people might think of esports as a team, as someone playing on a computer, whereas the ecosystem extends from the clubs to the game publishers. It also includes people who broadcast, so the broadcasting industry. You also have the data companies now that provide the infrastructure. So it's esports as a definition is more an ecosystem than something specific. That's how I would add to what they already said.
Thank you. Kersten, let's get back to you and talk about fan experience. I remember when I was a kid, like we were just gathering around one PC and somebody was playing, another was watching and commenting. Can you say that this is pretty much the same, just on a bigger scale, or has it changed drastically?
Yes, I think it changed. I wouldn't say drastically. core purpose is still, to get people together, especially people who are fans of that game, and obviously make them feel part of the whole event. Literally yesterday evening, there was the 30th anniversary of Warcraft, where Blizzard were announcing what's going forward to the industry. They announced, for example, certain remasters of old games, which are Warcraft, which are quite well embedded within the hardcore gamers. And obviously, these are all different fan experiences nowadays, which can give you, for example, certain items within the game and stuff like that. Obviously, when it comes to events, nowadays there are this idea of creating fan villages. So again, literally a couple of weeks ago, there was the League of Legends World Championship in London, and prior to the main event, literally there was a village where people were cosplaying. The village itself was built with the theme of the game. So similar to what other sports do when it comes to football or baseball or NBA. Now that kind of approach is being implemented to obviously make the people feel part of the event itself. So yes, rather than obviously there is the other front of the broadcasting, which we can go into a bit of detail later on. But when it comes to physical events, we're seeing these, let's say, tactics being used also to engage video gamers.
Daniel, for you, as a person whose teams are in the center of the fans' attention, how did it change?
Maybe I can answer this question from a different angle. I would say what I learned in the last 8 years in our business is that nothing is certain, and you always have to adapt. There's so much uncertainty around games, about tournament operators, around the publishers. So much uncertainty around how the professional player area is developing. So I need to focus on what we can control actually. And this is just to bring it to like one point, access to Gen Z and to Gen Alpha, and try to deliver as much customer value to our partners, to be able to attract partners, of course, and build a sustainable environment here. And of course, in order to attract fans, you have to be in the right games. You have to build a brand which is living and trustful and passionate. And of course, you need to build successful teams. But even if the teams are not successful, you need still to create this environment for people to love the club you actually build, which is the hard part, I would say. So, like, for me, this comes down to actually being in the right titles at the right time and adapt when it's needed, because every year there could be something new. Maybe you follow this trend, maybe you say, okay, we wait a bit, but you need to always be very focused on what is happening. So control the uncertainty in a way. And for us, like in the last 2 years, especially when the esports winter started, we tried to diversify our business. Ending up having like our own merchandise business, having up our creator agency, building a bootcamp business in Berlin. Actually, our competitors are using our facilities to practice there now, even for major tournaments. Yeah, this is something exciting. But of course, you don't want to get like too complex. You want to focus on esports. And this is our passion. And as long as we focus on that, I think attracting fans is our main priority in the long term. But there's a lot of uncertainty, and you need to control that. And you need to control what you can actually control, and this is access to Gen Z and to Gen Alpha.
Thanks, Chris. Let's talk commercial side of the matter with you. Being a service provider, having a different vantage point, can you compare how esports is commercialized today and will be commercialized tomorrow? Is it changing?
Okay, it's a good question. So with esports, you've got the traditional ways of commercializing. So you've got sponsorships, which everybody understands, where an organization basically gets a brand endorsement. You've also then got the merchandising aspect, which Daniel mentioned. Those are the traditional ones. Now, with esports, because esports lives in a digital world, you also have the issue of market rights. Now, marketing rights was something that in sport everybody understands. You know, you can sell your marketing rights if you are a club. In esports, it's a bit more complicated because you've got, when I say marketing rights, I also mean media rights. Esports does not control the games they play. The games are owned by publishers, which are private or public companies which make profit from these games. So when it comes to media rights, it's a bit more complex. So you have either publisher agreements where the publishers agree to pay organizations to play or to compete, or tournaments, for example. Recently, there's also the data, because as I said, esports lives in a digital world. And the digital world means there's a lot of data. And this data can provide a lot of, or can unlock a lot of revenue streams for the organizations who can afford it. So data can allow the teams that play to see how they're playing, if the performance was good. It also helps fan engagement. Fans love to see, oh, look, the statistics, this is my favorite player. 15 kills in 1 minute, whatever, you know? And given we're at an iGaming conference, that data also unlocks a revenue stream through betting odds. And that is where you get some big companies like, I think Odin was here before us, or Bias or Grid. So how is it changing? I think the commercial trends now, or at least what we're seeing, are there's the diversification issue, which Daniel mentioned, because esports on its own might not be enough to create a sustainable business. So you do have to learn how to unlock these different streams. And some streams are obviously more lucrative than others. Betting is one of them, but not all organizations are comfortable with that. I think, so the way it's going to change would be more dictated by what the publishers might impose. Recently we had some publishers changing how you could do in-game advertising, for example. So I think I'd leave it on that, or else it could get more nuanced. So those are the main, and I think data especially will play a bigger role as we progress.
Thank you. And Kersten, from the esport event organizers' perspective, how the organizers help the team to monetize?
So there are a couple of different ways. I try to keep it short because we're nearly running out of time. So step one, it depends who the event organizer is. So as both Daniel and Chris mentioned, there are the publishers who in reality hold the major say about everything that happens within the esports landscape. And then there are third-party organizers, for example, like us in Malta. They are the big ones like ESL and Bloxx, etc. When it comes to a publisher point of view, obviously having, as I said, having the main tools within their reach, they use tools like in-game content. So, for example, when there are certain competitions, the fans can buy items related to that team, and the teams will get a percentage revenue out of those purchases. So that's one point of it. There are other publishers who take an approach where they want to make their event big, so big that with the eyeballs that you get, then the teams can monetize sponsorships for example, through kit revenues, so we put their logos on their kits and stuff like that. And the last part, when it comes to third parties, I would say the biggest tool that as a third party organizer you have nowadays probably is to actually partner with the teams. You give them a percentage of, let's say, the ownership of the competition. So any revenue that is being generated, the teams will get income from that. Because obviously, as I said, as a third-party organizer, you are heavily based on the sponsorships that you get. And at the end of the day, the team and the players are your superstars. Without that, you don't have an event. So you need to make sure that there is an equal partnership, that makes sense for both parties, that can help the teams monetize that way.
Thanks, Kersten. Well, saying frankly, we've run out of time, but let me just ask the final question, because I personally would really love to hear Daniel answer that. So your teams are parts of such big franchise names at leagues as Blast and ESL Pro Series. What are the challenges that your teams are experiencing now, being at the top of the cybersports, and how do you respond to them going into the bright tomorrow?
Very good question. There was a news last year where the publisher Valve decided to end all the franchise leagues to create a level playing field, which means the competition is now open. We as a club spent many millions to buy into these leagues. And now, of course, we need to resolve this topic internally. So this comes again down to the uncertainty in the space. Back then, this was a very good decision to be in there because you have guaranteed presence, you have guaranteed visibility, you can attract larger partners. But now the world is different. And I'm quite curious about how publishers will create those environments in the future to provide more security to the clubs. Because at the moment, it's very uncertain where you're ending up. You can buy into leagues and tournaments, but at the end of the day, the publisher decides what happens. And this happened to Counter-Strike, which is one of the largest titles overall. At the same time, it's a title which can be very profitable because you have a large viewership, you can get very good partners, especially from the betting industry. We also had Betway as a partner for some time, and Coinbase, crypto space. But the main revenue comes from when you qualify for a major, you get digital revenue via selling your team items. But this is also not secure, so you have to focus on creating very well-performing teams, which is also connected to high investment. And I think it's not quite clear which is the best solution in the future. Should there be closed leagues, franchise, or should it be like in soccer where everything is open and everybody needs to compete on a level playing field, like Valve stated? So this is very interesting, to be honest. And yeah, so this was a big learning lesson for us with buying into Blast and ESL Pro League. It was the right decision back then, but of course now it was a very expensive venture.
Okay, thanks. It's always nice to hear about somebody's mistakes and failures. I wish you guys all the success in your business without any mistakes and failures coming forward. And thanks a lot for your input. And just last thing, another thing that we all found common ground on when we were speaking before the panel is that we would rather be sitting here and discussing the first video games we've ever played and our gaming experience. And maybe this is a hint for the organizers. I hope we'll reconvene here next year just speaking about our gaming and favorite games. Thank you very much. We'll have to end at this point. And
Huge
good luck.
thanks. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Eugene.